and welcome back to Cursed! Today I am checking out some of the weirdest plugins I could find. Effects plugins and synthesizer plugins. I'm going to go more in depth on some than others, but hopefully this serves as some inspiration for how to make some weirder electronic music. And I'm going to go over a few different beats over the course of this video. So right off the bat, let's go into this main ARP sound. There's a lot going on here. And let me get rid of all the processing and play with the original Vital patch. And I did do a dedicated video on Vital, one of the best free synth plugins out there. I'll link it at the end of this video. But this plugin by itself isn't particularly weird, although it is capable of some weird sounds. So here's the original patch. And in this case, this is a Venus Theory patch, which is lovely. Very Boards of Canada inspired. Just a simple little arpeggio thing, nothing too crazy about that yet. But then we get into Dumpster Fire by Freakshow Industries. And let me show you what these people are about, because these guys march to the beat of their own drum, for sure. So they make effects plugins that are designed to be rather cursed in nature. So this is Dumpster Fire, pitch shifter, applied directly to garbage, as it says. And I don't know, I kind of dig the aesthetic they've got going on here. And you'll notice that they even have the option to steal their plugins, where you can either underpay for it or download it for free. They encourage you not to, and to be clear, I paid full price because I'm making a video and making money from it, so I made sure to pay full price, but you can steal it if you want to, and they just let you do that, which is an interesting experiment. So that is Dumpster Fire. It's a pitch shifting plugin that has some kind of unpredictable inharmonic results. So I've got it off right now, and then I'm going to turn it on. So check out what this does. Let me reset these parameters back to neutral. I kind of love it. Okay, let's do that again. And they're intentionally pretty cagey about exactly what these parameters do, but hopefully you get the idea. It's kind of a stereo warble thing. Too much. This is like an LFO thing. And you can see how you can F up your sound pretty quickly. And I'm going to get back to the rest of the processing on this in a second, because I also used it on this Vital bass, although it's a little more subtle. This is a preset. And then add Dumpster Fire. And it gives it this metallic, tinny quality that, in my mind, sounds like some sort of like space machinery starting up. I'm imagining that this is like a soundtrack for some video game where you have to do some sort of spacewalk. That's kind of the vibe I'm going for here. And this is the start of that, which is just, it's fun. One more use of Dumpster Fire on this track is on the drums. So here are the untouched drums. Pretty straightforward. Here's with Dumpster Fire added. So I'm going to start with it off and then turn it on. So adds that stereo width, adds that chunkiness to it, and you'll notice it rounded off the transients, which for this vaporwave type thing, I think really works. Next, let's get into the other Freakshow Industries plugin that I've got going, which is their tape emulator. And this is not supposed to be like a pretty lo-fi tape emulator. This is supposed to just destroy your sound. So here's without, here's with. Adds some dirt to the sound, and also some hiss, which you can't turn off, fortunately. And you can distort it. Intentionally clip it. You can mess it up further from there. And you can even do some desync stuff. Which will actually have it fluctuate in its timing, which, because these are drums, I elected not to do in this case. And there's another feature that you can toggle on. I buried this in the mix for reasons that will become obvious in a second. Here's off. I've got some slightly different Dumpster Fire settings. this module right here does this weird skippy, delay thing. Sounds haunted as hell. So I filter that down and then paired it with the rest of the drums. So at this point, I've lost all musical criteria. I'm like, I don't even know if this sounds good anymore, but I'm having fun with it. I should also mention that this bass has the tape plugin on it as well. So here's it raw, another Vital preset. Add the tape plugin. Without. With. Warms it up in a really nasty, destructive way that I really like. And to come full circle to the ARP that we started with, let me get rid of these plugins. Here's it with just Dumpster Fire. Here's it with the tape plugin. That's where that width and that warble and that grit comes from. Brings it to life, especially since it's so metallic. And on top of that, I've put one of my favorite plugins, Spaced Out. I've covered this in multiple videos before. Puts in a space, and then EQ'd out the mud. And we've got some similar processing on this pad as well. Let me get rid of all this stuff. Super nice pad sound. So let's mess it up. Add some Dumpster Fire. Spaced Out. And some EQ. And you've got this ghostly, haunting pad, which is a lot of fun. And here's another permutation of it here. No Dumpster Fire. With Dumpster Fire. So you kind of have to be careful with the pitches that you're working with, or else you're going to make something completely inharmonic, but hopefully you get the idea. With all that out of the way, I've got one more plugin that I'm using here that is also pretty weird, and this one's free. It's kind of hard to find, but this is Autogun, which comes bundled for free with FL Studio, and you can download it individually as its own free plugin. And basically what it does is it just reaches into a giant database of presets, and you can play them. And they're all very metallic. So then I've done kind of the same processing we've seen before. Let me start this over. Dumpster Fire. Spaced Out. EQ. And then I have it descending at the end, and then I've buried it in the mix a bit. But with all that out of the way, let's move on to the second beat, which is a little more down to earth and a little more down tempo. So, Synplant. This has been around for ages, and I've been wanting to give it a go for a while. And this is meant to be a very non-traditional, more intuitive synthesizer. This is a modified preset. I'm going to get into how it works in a second, but let me just show you the processing on this first. I don't think I actually ended up using Dumpster Fire on this one. I did use this messy delay thing. Get rid of the mud. Wash it out a bit. So, let me get into Synplant a bit, because this thing's weird. Your central kind of main tone is set by a seed, and each of these branches correspond to different notes. So if I pull all these in, this is kind of its starting point. And this is the end point, which is fairly inharmonic. And I can be selective about which notes get pulled out and how much. So you can have a really complex tonality. And you can even rotate it. Check this out. And you can do some automation or use an LFO tool or something like that for some truly bizarre effects. And I can reset the seed and continue to evolve it. And I can set the atonality. And right-click for a new random one. Oh, that's neat. And if you want to get more specific with how stuff works, you can go into this little DNA editor. Like, it stays in character the whole time. And you can do stuff like modify your envelope time and all your more traditional synth parameters, which is just neat. I haven't fully gotten my head around exactly how to get this to give me consistently listenable results, but in part, I think that's the point. It's meant to be weird and unpredictable. So I've also got this little electric piano bit with these kind of strummed chords that I've programmed into the MIDI piano roll. Let me get rid of the processing. So I can mess with these parameters as well. A little bit of EQ. And spaced out adds this distorted delay, which is neat. And finally, let's take a look at the glitchy drums. Starting off with some pretty standard drums and then working my way towards something a little more bizarre. So let me get rid of this copious processing. We start off with something pretty basic, but a lot of activity. That's the key here. There's just a lot going on. Pitch it up. Add an instance of Infiltrator, which is my favorite glitch plugin. Speaking of weird plugins, this can do some bizarre stuff. Filter it down. This is a free plugin, by the way, a good LFO tool alternative, and I'm just modulating the volume to dip the volume down very quickly. Some delay, bouncing around in your ears. Some tape stuff. Another instance of Infiltrator. And another one. So at this point, you've got a lot going on. It doesn't sound great, but the tail does. So literally, I just looped silence for a bit. See, it's still going. I've stopped my DAW entirely. I just looped silence for a bit, sampled that, and then that's this right here. And let me get rid of that processing. That's what I rendered out. That's the tail of all the glitch plugins. So then it was just up to me to shape that a bit further. So I've compressed it. More volume shaper. And more compression. Fairly subtle. And then finally, I can add a kick that's tuned to be within the key of the song. In this case, this is from my $5 sample pack that I sampled from my Model Cycles. A little bit of grit. A little bit of EQ. Instant glitchy drum beat. And then I've also got a little cross stick element later on. And I just really like that effect. I've been playing around with that a lot lately. That kind of hack to make glitchy drums easily. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if there was a tip that you found especially useful or a plugin that you think would be worth looking into. And if you'd like to check out some more related videos, you can click or tap up over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with a new video in a little bit.